Welcome to the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. All right, we got a lot to cover. You know, President Trump, I was talking on the live stream this morning. The latest CNN poll has President Trump at an 83% approval rating among Republicans, the highest approval rating of any president in their second term at this point in their second term in the 21st century. So he has a higher approval rating than Obama had at this point in his second term, and George W. Bush as well. And, you know, it's an important point because they want you to think, the Never-Trumpers, the fake news media, and all these other lowlives, they want you to think that the Iran war is an unpopular war. The Iran war is not an unpopular war. They started it in 1979. Every single president that we've had since 79, from Jimmy Carter through Otto Penn Biden, except Donald Trump, has allowed the Iranians to grow, get more powerful, create global terrorist networks, start wars, right? The Gaza war was started by the Iranians, and they've done so many things. They've done more than we could list off the top of our heads. They're just terrible people, and they've been allowed to continue to do what they've been doing for almost half a century because of cowardly presidents. And now President Trump said, no more. We're going to take care of this. And he's doing it. And he's doing it hardcore. And what the goal is of the war is not regime change. Obviously, making sure that they don't get a nuke. We know that. The president talks a lot about that. But the major objective, well, there's that objective. One of the biggest objectives is to stop them from trying to assassinate him, like the Iranians have been trying to do for years and years since he took out General Soleimani. And there's another goal as well for Trump, and it's not regime change. That never was the goal of President Trump. He doesn't want anything to do with that. What President Trump wants is either the United States or a coalition put together by President Trump, with the United States as the lead, to control the Strait of Hormuz, which is one of the most vital economic, areas of the country because all the oil comes through there out of the Persian Gulf. And President Trump posted on Truth Social today this: from this point forward, anytime the Islamic Republic of Iran shoots at a ship, notice that shoots at a ship, that doesn't mean hits, in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it's by missile, rocket, drone, or any other device or weapon, the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in the capital city of Tehran, Trump posted. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Now, that's what we want. I mean, this is how wars are fought. You know, in the past, the last time prior to this that a war was fought in a total war total wars, it sounds like such a negative thing. None of us want war. President Trump doesn't want war. President Trump was opposed to the Iraq war with Bush in 2003. He was opposed to the war in Vietnam. And he doesn't want endless wars, stupid wars, and all this stuff. But what he's doing here in Iran is not creating a new war, as the Trump haters and the media are trying to craft this narrative that President Trump has started a new war. He's finishing and ending America's longest war, the war with Iran that started in 1979. But it hasn't been since the Second World War that we've really fought a war to win. All the other wars that we fought or have been involved in over the years, and I don't, there's little skirmishes here and there that don't count, right? Like when we went into Panama to get Noriega, or Grenada to get those students. Those weren't wars, I'm not counting things like that, or even Maduro. But we've never, since the end of the Second World War, fought a war in a total war fashion. And what total war is when you're at war, you're at war. You don't want to prolong it. You want it to be over. It saves lives on both sides the faster it's over. So with both Germany and Japan, we bombed everything until they no longer had the ability to make war. And that's what's going on right now in Iran. We're bombing everything. Anything they have. We're bombing trucks. We're bombing warehouses. We're bombing weapons. We're blowing up tunnels deep inside mountains. I mean, President Trump, it's been 11 nights. I'm assuming there's going to be another night. President Trump is blowing up everything they have, and the power plants are coming next. And he knows that he's going to have to hit whatever bridges they have left and start hitting the power plants, because he knows that as long as they have something to shoot with, even if it's a BB gun, okay, they're going to shoot it at ships in the Strait of Hormuz, because the Iranian leaders are nuts. They're fanatical, religious lunatics. Basically, they're fanatics like David Koresh, the Branch Davidians in Waco. Right? You can't negotiate with Koresh. You can't negotiate with the Iranians. Right? They're on a mission. They want to go down with the ship. So President Trump is blowing up everything, completely stopping their ability to make war of any kind. And then we're going to end up with the control of the Strait of Hormuz. And that's going to be the way of it. And if you notice, and this is an important thing for people to notice, because they don't want you to notice this, the Trump haters. But if you notice, Iran, who is the backer of so much of the Islamic terrorism around the world, there hasn't been Islamic terror attacks taking place, have there been, in this country or around the world? So the Iranians, their ability, their international Islamic terrorist network is not functioning. If it was, they would be unleashing it everywhere, right? Like they did against the Israelis at the music festival, and they can't do that anymore. That's how much damage has been done to them. And no one in the press, no one in the never-Trumper realm and sphere of things want to acknowledge any of that. But the reason there hasn't been Islamic terrorist attacks all over the world is because the Iranians no longer have the ability to do things like that because of this incredible military operation. So things are going very well. The war and what President Trump is doing to end the war with Iran is incredibly popular. That's where that 83% approval number came from for President Trump that I covered this morning. So I got quite a few other things I'm going to get into on the program. And by the way, you are welcome to call in. If you are watching live, you can call me live on the program. My name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. The Brian Craig Show podcast is available wherever you get podcasts. Whatever podcast platform you listen to podcast on, just search for The Brian Craig Show. I'll come up. If you want to catch the show live in video form, where you can call in live and see all the videos and everything I play, that's on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for The Brian Craig Show. All right, now Brandon Gill, he's a Republican out of Texas, and I played a clip of him this morning, and I was pretty impressed with him. I've seen him around before. It wasn't the first time I saw him today. But I did not know, people were telling me after the show today, I did not know that Brandon Gill's married to Dinesh D'Souza's daughter. I had no idea. They've been married for quite some time. They have kids. He's very good. Brandon Gill, he's going places. He is definitely another person to add to the MAGA bench. He's very, very smart and very, very conservative. He totally called out and exposed this woman that leads the Smithsonian with all of her stupidity. I don't want to get into that now. If you missed that, catch the program before this. But he's introduced legislation. He's filed the Citizenship Act to abolish birthright citizenship for illegal aliens. And this is in response to the Supreme Court ruling about birthright citizenship. Now, everyone knows that birthright citizenship is being misused here. The Supreme Court, they don't make law. They just rule and interpret on existing laws, which is what they did here. So the Republicans, Brandon Gill here with this new legislation, are introducing legislation to clarify the law, and the child of an illegal, not a citizen, and that's going to pass. And President Trump will sign it into law. Here's Brandon Gill on with Will Cain on Fox.
Completely agree. American citizenship is the most valuable thing in the world. That's why people all over the globe seek to come into the United States and want to become Americans and why we have to protect it. But there's a few things that we can do going forward, and I'll say shy of a constitutional amendment that would clarify the 14th Amendment, which I think we would all love to see, but politically would be impractical at this point, given the opposition we have from the left. One is that the Congress can pass legislation that clarifies what's subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that phrase in the 14th Amendment that the left latches onto. And there's been legislation from some of my colleagues, which I support, that have done just that. I think those would get litigated, but that would at least move us in the right direction. At the same time, we can enforce our border laws much more stringently.
I hate to interrupt you, Congressman, because every time you speak, it's like you spin out pearls. But I'd have to follow up with that.
Okay, well, yeah, so you hear so he knows. And, you know, and this guy, Brandon Gill, this really shows you where we're at and where they are, right? We have the majority of the American people on our side in the MAGA Republican movement, and we have got a huge, huge bench of MAGA Republicans. You know, Brandon Gill, he could end up being the governor of Texas. He's a congressman from there now, right? He's in the House. A senator, or maybe even president or vice president one day. He's young. He's very good. He's very conservative. We've got this incredible bench of people. And what do they got? They got nothing, right? Unless you consider AOC something. And I really don't. AOC is a joke. And you know what? Everybody knows AOC is a joke. They do not have anything. They don't even have a platform, the Democrats. They don't have any viable national candidates. There's a civil war going on inside their party between the Democrat Socialist Communist and the Democrat establishment on top of it. You know, if they had any good candidates or leaders or voices in the Democrat Party, which they don't, they'd be able to stand up and get control of their party. And we've got just an endless amount of up-and-comers. And that's all because of Trump, right? I mean, Trump has changed the Republican Party in so many ways. And this clarification that Brandon Gill's talking about of birthright citizenship, it's needed. You know, that was passed. Everybody knows why. It was passed for the slaves, okay? It was passed for the slaves because, I'll just tell you quick, because it's very important. And they don't want it. Yeah, everybody knows what's going on here, okay? Before Republicans freed the slaves during the Civil War, the Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott was a slave. A slave master came to get him. He sued his slave master, and the Supreme Court of the United States, think about this, crazy, huh? The Supreme Court ruled that Dred Scott, a slave, was not a U.S. citizen because he was a slave, and that slaves were not U.S. citizens, and since they weren't U.S. citizens, had no standing in court. So when the Republicans freed the slaves and the Civil War was over, they had to establish that the newly freed slaves were citizens. Because that was a question because of the Dred Scott decision. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't go to law school or take any law classes. This is common sense stuff that they used to teach us like in the 4th and 5th grade in this country before the social justice warriors with blue and green hair took over and started putting up trans flags everywhere in the public school classrooms, right? But that's just a regular, everyday thing that we used to learn in school, you know, and that's what it's about. It wasn't for coming over here and having an anchor baby and then retiring, and you and your anchor baby living in Section 8 housing, getting your EBT, food stamps, right? Getting your monthly check, and your kid gets to go to college for free and everything else. That's not what it was meant for. Everybody knows this. So this clarification that Brandon Gill is talking about is going to be incredibly popular, and it could be one of the main issues in the next presidential election, right? And it very well will pass because not only are we going to win the midterms, we're going to gain in the House, and we'll probably gain in the Senate too. So this is something that will pass, as will the Save America Act. Now, what's been going on in New Jersey is just absolutely amazing. So President Trump last week addressed the nation on elections, and he talked about all these people that are non-citizens that are registered to vote. And all the Democrats, all the pundits, all the mainstream media. They came out and laughed at him. There's no evidence of this. There's no evidence of this. And now we find out that spread over 4 states, there's about 250,000. And we just learned of 6,600 in the state of New Jersey, but there's more than that. 400 of the 6,600 are non-citizens illegally voted. And here's CNN's panel last night talking about it.
Definition of widespread, by the way, is it 1%? Is it 2%?
I don't know, more than
See now, you notice with the left, what they were saying last week after Trump's speeches, there's no evidence of illegals voting. There's no evidence of non-citizens voting. There's no evidence of non-citizens being registered. And now they're saying, well, it's only this much. Less than a week ago, there was no evidence. Now there's evidence. Oh, it's not that widespread. How widespread is it?
Definition of widespread, by the way, is it 1%? Is it 2%?
I don't know, more than 100? I think it's a big problem. What's yours?
What's your tolerance for this?
Hold on. This is not about tolerance. This is about, is it widespread or is it something that is relatively rare,
You're
Scott?
Pounding him over the word widespread. I just would ask you,
Scott,
what is your tolerance for any fraud at all?
See, now Scott Jennings, he's really butching up here because with his makeover and beard and looks like he's got Botox and Juvederm and skin treatments going on and everything else. That's just me. Doesn't it look like that? Is he dyeing his hair too? I don't know. But, was it last week he said he had this 17-minute conversation with Mitch McConnell? And, conservatives are like, nobody likes Scott Jennings anymore. So Scott Jennings he's all trying to act like he's, not part of the Mitch McConnell Rhino group of Republicans. He's got to stand up and man up. So he's going after the host, which is a no-no for the regular panelist on these shows, especially on CNN.
I just would ask you,
Scott,
what is your tolerance for any fraud at all?
Is it widespread?
Absolutely. Over 6,000 people.
What is your bar for widespread?
She said, my bar is I want no tolerance.
Exactly. I like how they say last week, there's no evidence of non-citizens registered. There's no evidence of non-citizens vote. Now we get the evidence. Oh, well, it's not that widespread. And what's your tolerance? 0. That's why we want the Save America Act passed, right?
I want no tolerance. Okay. I have 0 tolerance.
So what is your tolerance for American citizens?
By the way, this isn't the only place this is happening.
What is your tolerance for American citizens whose valid voter registrations are invalidated by incorrect databases?
Oh,
What's your tolerance for that?
I don't have tolerance for any mistakes in the electoral system, including putting
talk about pivoting
on the rolls.
So then why are we not keeping the same energy for that as we are for this?
Because someone who is there anyone out there who has gone to vote and found out you weren't registered and couldn't? Okay, there's a remedy in place for that. Okay, and I haven't watched past this, so I don't know what Scott Jennings is going to say. We'll find out. If you show up to vote and you're legally eligible to vote, but there's a problem, right? And they say you can't vote because of this, that, or the other thing. So like this idiot from CNN's talking about. You get to vote with a provisional ballot. And then after that, you go to the voter registration office in your neighborhood, in your town, and you bring whatever documents you need, and then your vote gets counted. That's how it works. Did you know that? Yeah. But if you're an illegal, you can't do that.
I do have energy. As you know, I've come out here and long argued that every time we don't clean up the voter rolls, that every time a non-citizen makes it onto the voter rolls, it invalidates some legal person's vote.
What about when an American is not allowed to vote when they are eligible to vote?
I don't have any tolerance for that either. An American citizen should be allowed to vote. But American citizens are invalidated
why are
when
you
illegal
okay
aliens
then with the
are glitched onto the
administration
system.
using a system that a federal judge recently found was actively removing U.S. citizens from the voter rolls based on inaccurate information?
Oh, my goodness. They're just totally, she's doing a whole nother topic now because their talking point that there's no illegals registered to vote just got blown out of the water.
Why are you comfortable with that system being used to check the voter
another
rolls?
topic.
This is a convenient deflection for you. This is the worst possible story that could happen for Democrats right now regarding the debate over the SAVE Act. 6,600 illegal aliens on the rolls in New Jersey that you know about.
Can I tell you why I think this conversation is wrong? Because, first of all, this is not the worst possible conversation. This is actually a very good conversation for Democrats because Mikey Sherrill did exactly the right thing.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, man. You can see and hear the panic over at CNN because their future and their racket is over. Here's another clip from it. Oh, this is great stuff. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you'd like to call in, the number's toll-free and pinned in the live chat.
Because they're trying to defraud the system. They might have cast a ballot because they just weren't aware that they were incorrectly put on the voter roll.
They weren't aware that they weren't a citizen of the United States?
No,
They
but the
said
question
in this instance that they weren't citizens. They were still
Is this accurately described as fraud when none of these people tried to register to vote?
Yes, they cast ballots. 400 of them cast ballots. They had to actively go do that. I assume no one voted in their name. Maybe they did. I don't know. But they actively cast a ballot. Did they not?
What I want to, but
an illegal alien gets put on the rolls, however they got there, and cast a ballot.
But you acknowledge that some people might actually be confused, because this has come up in courts before, where some people who are ineligible to vote are not aware that they're ineligible to vote.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Talk about diversions and stupidity. This is a wonderful thing, because one of the greatest strengths of President Trump since he came down the escalator, you've heard me talk about this a lot, and we're seeing it happen right now in this bizarro panic exchange on CNN. President Trump, when he came down the escalator and took command of the media narrative on everything every day for the past 11 going on 12 years, he did something no Republican before him could do, not even Ronald Reagan. He did something no Republican ever did before, and that was control the narrative. Control the narrative. See, the way it was before, to be a Republican before Trump came down the escalator, it was like this idiot on is her name Abby Phillips? I forget her name. But it's like her. She's responding to us. See? The left are responding to the narrative that President Trump set. Last week, when he addressed the nation, President Trump set the narrative. There's over 200,000, over 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in 4 states alone. There's many millions more, but other states wouldn't give us the data, he said. And now we have this out of New Jersey. Okay? So now the Democrats are responding to Trump's narrative. And whenever you're responding, you're losing. That's why Republicans before Trump, we were losing so much, because every Republican pretty much was like John Thune, a Democrat. Rhinos are Democrats. They call themselves Republicans. And Democrats would set the narrative, make accusations, and Republicans were always responding to the Democrat narrative. Whenever you're responding, you're losing. And the Democrats are responding to Trump's narrative, and what's happened in New Jersey has just destroyed them. And there's no way for them to get out of it. But there's more data and that's coming out, and President Trump has released more data. Now, Todd Blanche and the Justice Department, they're on their way to New Jersey. They may already be there investigating this. But look at this. This comes out of the Department of Homeland Security. And all the articles and things that I cover and show on the program, they're all on my X at Brian Craig Show. You can get my whole stack of stuff, all my show prep, including the things I never get to talk about on the program because there's only so many hours I'm on the air, at Brian Craig Show on X, okay? The Department of Homeland Security said that preliminary reviews of voter records in California, New Jersey, Nevada, and Pennsylvania found the following. In the state of California, 190,832 non-citizens are registered to vote. In the state of New Jersey, 35,152 non-citizens are registered to vote. Wow. In the state of Nevada, 15,903 non-citizens registered to vote in Nevada. In Pennsylvania, 14,576 non-citizens registered to vote. And if you go to House races, and forget about the school board, city councils, county commissions, mayors, and things like this. But if you go to House races around the country, House races are won by handfuls of votes, and you've got 6,600 that they just talked about in New Jersey the other day. But Homeland Security says there's 35,152 non-citizens registered to vote. And guess what? They vote Republican, the ones that vote. I mean, right? Give me a break. They vote Democrat. They vote overwhelmingly Democrat. In fact, they probably have 100% Democrat voter records, all of these non-citizens registered to vote, all right, that are voting. You can swing so many House races. You can swing a House race with 100 votes, 150 votes, 200 votes. You don't need that many. Why do you think, I want you to think about this now. Why do you think all of these illegal populations that the Democrats have been colonizing our country with are located in strange places, right? Thousands upon thousands of Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. They basically transported the entire nation of Somalia to Minnesota with God only knows how many in Minneapolis. Michigan, you know the situation in Michigan. Why do they do this? They put them in areas, then they get them registered to vote regardless of whether or not they're a citizen. Boom. They're winning House races. They're winning governor's races. They're winning state House, state Senate races. That's how they do it. They have mathematicians and statisticians that have the highest mathematical degrees a person can have from places, I don't know where you get, where MIT, I don't know. They've got people that are mathematicians that are at the scientific level. You know, the kind of guys that would be working for NASA, right? They work for the Democrats to do the statistics and the mathematical equations that they need. And how many of these non-citizens do we have to colonize and register to vote in Ohio to win some House seats or the governor's race? That's what they do. And Trump's on to them. And the panic among the Democrats, they can't even hide it anymore. Now, all of this happened. Hold on a second, guys. All of this happened because they gave them driver's licenses. And this is a very important thing. You know, when one thing I like about, getting older, I don't mind getting, a lot of people, they don't like getting old. I don't mind getting older. I don't know if I'll say that when I'm in my 80s or not. I don't know. But, for now, I don't mind. I like getting older. And you guys hear me talk a lot about how long I've been doing this. And because I've been doing this so long, doing a show every day like I'm doing right now, taking calls, covering the news, and I started doing this when George Bush was president, not W, the daddy, when Daddy Bush was president. I started doing this, so I got a perspective, and I remember literally years of programming around giving illegals driver's licenses in these Democrat states. And it was a hard fight, and the Democrats won. The Democrats were fighting so hard to give illegals driver's licenses. And all the Republicans said, you can't do it. Rush Limbaugh, Trent, all these old people you don't even know, Trent Lott, all these people you don't even know of, Pat Robertson, right? People that are long gone. And what the Republicans said back in the early 90s when Democrats were pushing to give illegals driver's licenses, we didn't foresee that they'd be on the street murdering people all the time with semi-trucks. Nobody envisioned that. But the Republicans knew what their goal is to give them driver's licenses so they could register to vote. All you need is a driver's license to register to vote. And if you have to show ID when you vote, you got the driver's license, you're registered, you vote. That's why they did it. Okay? That's why they did it. And everybody knows why they did it. And now here we are, all these years later, right? And we're experiencing it now. We're living through what Rush and Pat Robertson and all the Republicans of the 90s warned us about. They got all these illegals driver's licenses. And now remember what they would say. Well, you don't want them on the road without driver's licenses, do you? That wouldn't be safe. Well, it doesn't seem like it's very safe. Go to Miami. Oh, my goodness. Now look at this. This is just dry. See, lots coming out. A lot of focus going on in the state of New Jersey. Listen to this. A Democrat New Jersey politician who personally sponsored the state's DMV voter registration initiative just came out in support of the Save America Act after the governor admitted thousands of non-citizens were registered. Even Democrats now that are elected are openly coming out for the Save America Act. This is amazing.
Were asked if they wanted to register to vote. In the case of this error, some individuals indicated that they weren't citizens and weren't eligible to vote, but the software registered them anyway. The error in the software was corrected a year later in June of 2024. That is more than 2 years ago. I learned of this last Wednesday, and I immediately ordered my chief counsel to launch a comprehensive investigation. Currently, the Division of Elections is working to ensure anyone who is illegally registered is removed.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, this was no accident. This is part of the Democrat strategy. You see, when Trump ran the first time and started the rallies, people wondered, why don't the Democrats have rallies? You never really thought about it too much, but they never did have events. They never did have rallies. Why? Because of things like this. All right, if you're on hold, stand by. I'm going to take our first break. It's the Brian Craig Show podcast. My name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. If you'd like to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat on YouTube. It's 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll be right back. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, Brian, this is Joan from Tampa Bay. I just got to say, Jupiter Joe Thomas, I called him. I almost fell off my chair. A 5-year annuity. I get a hefty monthly allowance, and I don't even touch my principal.
I thank you, Joan, in Tampa Bay, for taking my advice. And those of you out there that have not yet done it, take advantage of the no-charge consultation that Jupiter Joe Thomas offers. I'm going to give you the number. It's 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online, jupiterjoe.com. And Joan in Tampa Bay, I think you might be the new Jupiter Joe Thomas commercial.
Well, it's a win-win situation. You never lose your principal.
Exactly. Yeah, guys. Again, the number for Joe Thomas, 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online, jupiterjoe.com.
Are you looking for a smarter way to care for your skin and your hair? You can do just that with Valaya AI. Valaya AI is your personal AI wellness coach. With just a quick scan from your phone, Valaya AI analyzes your skin and hair in seconds, providing personalized recommendations for acne, hydration, wrinkles, pigmentation, dryness, hair health, and that's just the beginning. Using advanced artificial intelligence, Valaya AI creates customized morning and evening routines, recommends products tailored to your needs, and even adjusts your care based on the weather, UV index, and seasonal conditions. What are you waiting for? Download Valaya AI right now in the Apple App Store and Google Play Store and discover a smarter, more personalized approach to skin and hair care. Learn more and see how Valaya works online at mindhatch.ca. That's mindhatch.ca. Valaya AI, healthy skin and hair powered by artificial intelligence. Life can leave us with a lot of questions. Why did this happen to me? Why do I keep repeating the same patterns? And where is God in all of it? If you've ever asked those questions, you need to tune into the Healing Philosophers podcast with The Healing Philosopher on Spotify. Through honest conversations and real-life experiences, each episode explores topics like healing from past hurts, generational karma, letting go of what's holding you back, understanding narcissism, and discovering how God can use even life's hardest moments for a greater purpose. The Healing Philosophers podcast is about finding hope, growing in your faith, and realizing that your story and every season of your life has meaning. Add the Healing Philosophers podcast to your Spotify playlist and make sure to share the podcast on all your social media and invite your friends and family to listen in too. Your share could be exactly what someone else needs right now. The Healing Philosophers podcast with the Healing Philosopher on Spotify. Healing starts with one conversation. Listen now on Spotify.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, and those of you that are new to the program, welcome. Make sure you subscribe, and everyone watching on YouTube, please like the video if you don't mind. That gets the program recommended to people that have not yet found me. So please like the video, those of you watching on YouTube. Okay, now one of the most amazing things that we have found out about in the last year and a half is all what the Democrats have been doing with Medicare, Medicaid fraud, right? The Leering Centers of Minneapolis with the Somali pirates as an example. And these are all tragedies, right? But they have Leering Centers with no students. You go to an autism education facility. There's no students. You go to California, the Democrats in California have these hospice care scams going. You go to these hospice facilities, there's no patients. Well, other than the American taxpayer being ripped off and being told we're greedy, that we want lower taxes, well, how else can you fund the Democrats with all their fraud going on if we lower taxes? Now it looks like 2,000 Americans are either dead or missing because of what the Democrats are doing. News Nation reported this. Look at this. The Democrat Medicaid fraud scandal. Up to 2,000 Native American Indians are feared dead or missing. The treatment centers would come into the area in white vans. They would feed people fentanyl pills, drugs, and alcohol to get them into the vans. This is crazy. It's really sad. I mean, these are Native Americans. Then they would bring them to treatment centers and lock them in rooms. Here's the News Nation report on it, and they're missing. So they're either dead or missing. 2,000 Native American Indians. Didn't the Democrats kill enough Indians during the Indian Wars with Andrew Jackson and everything? The Democrats are still killing it. It was the Democrats who gave the Indians all those diseases and everything to clear them out of the space they wanted to take. And the Democrats are still killing Indians today, according to News Nation.
So this all started with your cousin. Can you explain what happened there?
Yes, when my cousin went missing, she was forced into a van or a Suburban with other vulnerable Native relatives.
Unbelievable.
8 hours away from us up in Farmington. They told her she would go to Phoenix for the day and take her home. All throughout the ride, they gave her alcohol, and she was brought to home and asked for information, and because they told her she was going to be staying there, and she refused. That's when they gave her a fentanyl pill, a blue fentanyl pill.
Oh, my goodness.
And again, she refused to give her information. That's when they kicked her out and told her that she would have to find her way home. So she tried to hitchhike back to New Mexico. When she told me what was happening is when I figured this is why we were missing so many people, and this is why we saw so many of these white vans.
Wow. And the woman speaking, by the way, she's also a Native American Indian. You know, you guys that are Democrats out there, what do you have to say for yourself? Have you no shame, honor, dignity, compassion for humans? I mean, now we're in a phase now where it's beyond just stealing billions upon billions of dollars from the government. Now what are you doing, right? Now you're killing Indians, getting them hooked on fentanyl. You know, I got to tell you, the Democrats, you know, the thing with the Democrat Party, okay? The Democrat Party is, and this has been, I don't know how long this has been the case. I don't know, man. Probably since Obama, right? The Democrat Party no longer is a political party. It's a financial crime syndicate. It's an organized financial crime syndicate. All they care about is ripping the federal government off. That's all they care about. That's what their whole party's about. That's why they're all so rich. And they don't even care. And this is the first Indian massacre since when? Where's Leonardo DiCaprio? You know, Leonardo DiCaprio made that movie on Apple TV a couple years ago that no one watched because De Niro was in it, about how the Indians were abused and massacred to get their land because there was oil underground there, right? I didn't see the movie, but you know, I think Scorsese did it. Scorsese did it, and Leonardo DiCaprio, De Niro, you know, the usual Scorsese crew. I don't know, was Pesci in it? I don't know. But here we are 2026, 2025, some of this was last year, and the Democrats are still massacring Indians. Have you heard that story outside of here? It was covered by News Nation, so we'll give them props for carrying it. But the Gateway Pundit have a story on it, following up on News Nation. But I think News Nation broke the story. Have you heard that story anywhere else whatsoever? And you go through the news. When do you hear anything good that the Democrat Party is doing today? And I challenge you. I mean, look at this. Unemployed migrant guns down 3 Minnesota apartment staffers over a parking contract dispute. He claims he's the victim of the American system. I mean, you go through the news, and Breitbart does a lot of reporting on this. Almost every single day, there are stories of Americans who are killed or victimized in some other way by the Democrats' precious migrant illegals, right? And if you call them out on it, you're a bigot. You're hateful. They're the ones massacring Indians. This Indian massacre, my goodness. I mean, this even involves gun violence. The Democrats, the liberal media, love stories about gun violence and mass shootings. This is one they're not going to cover. Yeah, I remember a few years ago, there was a missing girl, a jogger in Kansas. Remember this story? I can't remember her name. And I don't know what it was about this particular story and this girl, but all of the mainstream national media went to Kansas, and they're reporting on roads in front of cornfields and stuff, looking for the missing girl. They find out she was kidnapped and raped and murdered by an illegal. They all packed up and left Kansas, like almost immediately. They got out of there. Oh, no, we don't want to carry that. Oh, no. It doesn't fit our narrative. These are some twisted people. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
What if the past you've been running from is the only thing that could save the people you love? Author Anna Alina Bolstad brings the Old West to life in a story of redemption, sacrifice, and family. The Death of Laura Black, available on Amazon. Laura Black was once an outlaw, living a dangerous life filled with crime and violence, but she's left that world behind. Now, she wanders the wilderness alone, carrying the scars of her past and the secrets she's tried to bury. Everything changes when she discovers the only family she's ever known is in desperate need of help, and she's the only one who can save them. Can Laura face ghosts of her past, or will the life she's escaped finally catch up with her? Find out in this unforgettable Western adventure filled with action, heart, and strong characters. The Death of Laura Black, from author Anna Alina Bolstad, available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and free with Kindle Unlimited. This book also makes a great addition to your book club. Order your copy right now. Are you retired and wondering what comes next? Your experience still has value. Your passions, hobbies, knowledge, and skills could become the foundation of a profitable online business. At retirementprogram.org, you'll discover a practical internet marketing strategy designed to help everyday people just like you create additional income from what they already know. With retirementprogram.org, you'll learn how to build your very first website, even with no programming experience. Discover the basics of getting your website found on Google. Learn to attract targeted visitors and turn that traffic into revenue. This free step-by-step guide explains how to choose a topic, create useful content, improve your search rankings, and explore proven ways to make money online. Retirementprogram.org isn't about getting rich overnight. It's about investing a little time each week to build something that can grow over time and provide an additional source of income during your retirement. Your dream career may not be behind you. It could be just beginning. Visit retirementprogram.org today and get your free guide, and share the link on all your social media so your retired friends can join in too. That's retirementprogram.org. Some towns never forget, and some ghosts never leave. From author Alex Giles comes your next must-read book, The Ghost of Port St. Joe, a ghost story of the Florida coast. Along Florida's forgotten coast lies Port St. Joe. It's a town where a tragic past refuses to stay buried. When Alex discovers a mysterious gold locket, he awakens spirits trapped for nearly 2 centuries and uncovers a love story that death could never end. If you love Southern Gothic suspense, haunted history, unforgettable characters, and chilling mysteries, The Ghost of Port St. Joe will keep you turning pages late into the night. Order your copy right now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover edition, as well as Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, Smashwords, Kobo, and learn more on the author's website, alex-giles.com. The Ghost of Port St. Joe from author Alex Giles. Order your copy today, because sometimes the dead are only waiting to be remembered.
All right, welcome back. I'm Brian. It's the Brian Craig Show podcast. You know, I give you an example. Like these, I'm telling you, these stories don't fit their narratives, so they drop them. I mean, look what just happened. We had this domestic terrorist attack 2 days ago on the federal building in New York City, where the ICE offices are located. Right, the guy that did it is an Antifa leftist who voted for Kamala Harris. He's done nothing but get involved in leftist causes, from climate change to whatever in between, because that's what he does. And the story has disappeared. He got arrested. Kash Patel in the Justice Department left his social media up online, didn't wipe it clean. Everything came out there. Boom, press aren't interested. Why? Because he's one of them. That's why, right? The violence is all from the right, they say. Where is this right-wing violence? That's another spam caller. There's a new spam. Remember the spam callers that were, your kid's been arrested and they're, all these different scams. The new one, it's an AI voice trying to sell you insurance. And the AI is pretty good. I tell you, telemarketers out there, watch out, because the first time they'll catch you. They sound kind of natural. But if this guy was a MAGA guy, that's all you would hear about. Now, I'll give you another one, right? Dan Bongino did one thing as the deputy FBI director. He got the pipe bomber from January 6th. When's the last time you heard about the pipe bomber? What does that tell you about his politics, right? All of the violence is coming from the left. Right now in Maine, this is crazy. So in Maine, they got Graham Planner to drop out. Not because he's a Nazi, because his Democrat Socialist of America ex-girlfriend said that he raped her. So the front runner they have now, he threw a water bottle. He was in the state legislature. And he threw a water bottle at a female state legislature over a debate they were having over some legislation. She didn't run for re-election, and she told people the main reason she didn't run for re-election is because the Democrats' new Senate candidate threw a water bottle at her. And you throw a water bottle at someone, if it's got water in it, that's a rock. Even if it was empty and was just the water bottle, you don't throw things at people, especially women. That's what they got. They got a Nazi accused of rape. Now they got a guy who's a Democrat who throws things at women. No stories about that. Could you imagine if there was a story of a Republican running in a primary for the United States Senate somewhere who had thrown a water bottle at a woman who was another legislator? You don't think that'd be at the top and the bottom of every newscast? Of course it would. Now, Mike Lindell, one of his reporters, oh, this was great. He's got a great group of reporters, and they go up to this Democrat idiot. Listen to this. Look at about what's going on. And this thing in New Jersey is really turning everything against the Democrats and really is helping to get the Save America Act through. President Trump probably knew when he gave that speech on Thursday about everything in New Jersey, and he was setting up the narrative for that. Listen to this. female reporter. She's with Mike Lindell's Lindell TV. She's talking to this Democrat loser congressman.
That's breaking news. Making sure.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, they disclosed it. They're going to fix it.
6,600
with laws that they have on the books.
Yeah.
6,600 individuals didn't vote illegally.
That's not for certain. I mean, they're
actually-
registered, so they could if they wanted to, right?
But there's an independent investigation that New Jersey has initiated, and so far the proof shows that a very, very, very small fraction voted illegally, and they have discovered this, and they're going to continue investigating it. And I think,
see, a week ago there was no evidence that non-citizens were registered to vote. Now they're oh well, it's not widespread, and only this many voted that we know of so far.
the point that for a very small percentage of error, we have error in every system. We have fraud in every system. There's a lot of fraud coming out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Oh, really? Tell me about that. This is a congresswoman that's talking. Where's the fraud out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
To make it more difficult for the vast majority of Americans to vote.
What the hell is she talking about? Maybe make it difficult for the vast majority of South Americans to vote, maybe. Right? Right, exactly.
To vote.
I don't think that's what she means.
Because of a very small percentage of error and fraud is not popular. It's not popular amongst the American people, and it's basically a poll tax.
But that's an admission that a small percentage of illegals are voting, right?
Okay, so now, see, they got this thing about a poll tax, right? Which is, the Democrats, what they used to do to black people back in the Jim Crow era. A driver's license is now a poll tax. Well, give the driver's licenses out for free. I don't mind. We pay enough in taxes. See, what I think has happened in New Jersey is I don't think most of these illegals just go out and register to vote. I think they're registering to vote when they get their driver's license is what we're hearing. Now, again, this is a developing story, and things could change in 30 seconds, okay? But, what we know right now is that this is happening when driver's licenses are issued, a lot of it, around the country, and in New Jersey in particular, because that's what everyone's talking about. You got to have that driver's license to vote, right? So what I think is happening is I think we have liberal people working at the DMV that are issuing the driver's licenses. And remember, and this is what tipped me off to this, because one of the stories today had said that on the paperwork, the non-citizens had voted that they were not eligible to vote, but they still got registered. So I think the DMV bureaucrat worker, who's probably they're almost all liberal Democrats work at the DMV, okay? They are. They're just clicking the box on the computer and registering them to vote. They're doing it. Another thing I'd like to know, of the 400 non-citizens that we know that voted, I want to know a couple things about them. One, did they vote Republican or Democrat? Would you be surprised if all 400 voted Democrat? You kind of expect that. I'd like to know if they voted in person or absentee. And I'd like to see those ballots, right? And I'd like to see the writing on those ballots and see if the writing matches. I'd like to see, just because they voted doesn't mean they did the voting too, correct? Exactly. Everyone knows what's going on here. And you know what? The Democrats got busted. And this Mike Lindell reporter, what she did here, this is like a perp walk with this Democrat. Notice again, this is another Democrat. Remember I told you, the Democrats are responding to Trump. Trump has set the narrative, the Democrat vote fraud machine, and they're responding to it. And their responses are pathetic. Well, we only know of 400 that voted. Oh, that's all? You could sway 2 House seats with 400 voters. Easily won. And they know this. Now, if you'd like to support my channel and my content, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link in the description. If you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to a lot of exclusive content, including commercial-free editions of all my podcast episodes and much more, and also my Patreon-only live streams. My live streams on Patreon are like here on YouTube, where there's a live chat. It's a troll-free zone. It's a great community. I interact with the chat. Very much so. It's a great community, and there are no trolls. It's a troll-free zone, my Patreon live streams. And on top of that, I talk about things that I cannot talk about here or anywhere else. My podcast, YouTube, the radio, I talk about things I cannot talk about anywhere else. I talk about them and cover them in detail on my Patreon live streams. There's a link in the description to my Patreon page on whatever platform you're listening on. And now, when you go there, you'll see an option to become a free Patreon supporter. If you do that, you don't have access to the content. You don't even see the content. It is only available to paying Patreon supporters, and that starts at just $5 a month. And not only do you get access to everything that I have upcoming, my live streams and such, you get access to my entire back catalog of content, which goes back many years because I've been on Patreon for many, many years, okay? Again, there's a link in the description. If you become a top Patreon supporter, you get a live, on-air thank you shout-out on every episode. So the names you'll hear now are my top Patreon supporters. I want to thank SF Jr., Christine, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, Lizep, Shauna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, Tina, David, Laura, Rob, Wes, Sue, Janice, Teresa, Irene, Rick, Michael, and Robert R. Thanks, guys. Those are my top Patreon supporters. Again, the link's in the description. So what's Trump's amazing with this. I told you guys last week that speech that he gave addressing the nation was about passing the Save America Act. And if you notice, that's what everyone's talking about. That's what's trending in the news. That's what all the reporters are asking, like this reporter here, the discussion on CNN with Scott Jennings I played earlier. Everything is about the Save America Act. And we actually have Democrats defending the fraud now. A week ago, oh, no evidence of fraud. Now, yeah, but how widespread is it? They keep asking. They're acknowledging that illegals and non-citizens are registered and are voting by a lot. That's amazing. To get Democrats to make that admission, who would have thought that was possible, right? Well, no one else could have done it but Donald Trump. If you're new to my program, make sure you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, okay? If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like the video. Liking the video helps so much on YouTube, guys. It gets the video recommended to people that have not yet found the channel, okay? And those of you that are new, welcome. I am live every morning of the week and the weekend, 7 days a week. You can catch me on this channel live every morning, 7 days a week, most afternoons during the week, and I'm always taking live calls in the studio. You guys take care. I'm going to sign off because the president has a rally coming up in Georgia, and I don't want to miss that. And I'll see you first thing, bright and early, tomorrow morning. Thanks for tuning in.